What's going on, everybody? Prophecy Wiz, and this last weekend I won a 3v3 tournament. I played Melodious. I think it's the best deck right now, and I sat in the middle. I was undefeated myself, and I played against all YuGiOh except for one round, and that round I played against Mel. So I won the YuGiOh card case holder that they give away for top 16 at YCS. So that was really cool. And yeah, I wanted to share with you guys the deck list. So, alrighty, so getting right into the profile, I started off with 3 copies of Refrain. This is obviously the best, like, normal summon starter in the deck. This card is really good. It does a full combo by itself with without needing to like open a discard. So it's like a true 1-card combo. This card is super strong. Its scale effect is also really strong, and both effects, both monster effects are really strong. The scale effect is really strong. The scale effect came up to boost, to dump a couplet and boost by 1,000, so that came up. And I think it's pretty standard. You should just obviously be playing 3 of this Searcher. It's insane. Then we played 3 copies of Couplet. I always kind of wondered why people would play 3 copies of this before I played this deck myself. And it, like, I felt like, oh, you could probably just play 2 of this. But it makes a lot of sense because if you open this with Refrain, the combo just becomes a lot better. And then if you hard open this with literally any other Melodious monster, you can do the full combo. So, once figuring that out, that made a lot of sense. That just like this and any other Melodious monster, even the ones that are bricks, does the full combo. So this is really good. Also, if you open like it with Refrain and then like Refrain, if Refrain doesn't get hand trapped, then the combo is just a little bit better. And if Refrain does get hand trapped, then it's like always pretty sweet to like already if I had this. So this is really good and definitely is like a mandatory 3 of in my opinion. The next card that we played that I was actually a really big fan of was the Sonata. I maxed on this card because I wanted, like, in a hand trap format, I wanted to make sure that, like, it's like if you open it with just, like, a couplet, it's going to be full combo, and if you open it with, like, any of your cards that play, like, if you open it with the Refrain, and the Refrain gets hand trapped, you could just special summon it, and then summon the link and still just play. So I wanted to just give myself the chance, like the highest percentage chance of playing every single time, because I think what this deck can do and has to offer is really good. So also like it's risky, but depending on the situation, like just 2 of this could just be full combo because you just normal summon one, special summon the second copy, and then send the 2 of them into the link, and then just full combo from there. So this card was really good. The attack boost came up a few times. It not being once per turn definitely came up. That's crazy. You could tell this was just like an old guard type card that I don't even think the first printing was like super crazy old, but it was just like printed like some older cards that just are not once per turn, and that is really abusable and awesome. So super strong effect. The not once per turn is really good, and like I said, I just wanted to have as many ways to continue to play as possible. So this card was really good every time I drew it. And then I played 2 copies of the Soprano. I like a lot of the combos you want 2 copies of this for, and then I think it's like the best thing after turn 1 to like fetch out of the deck, because they can just like cycle your resource game really crazy. So this card is really good. I definitely wouldn't play anything less than 2 of it, but I definitely would never play 3 of it. I've seen some people who are playing 3. I just think that's incorrect. I think 2 of it is like the perfect number of this. The recycle effect is really good. The fusion effect not being once per turn is actually insane. There were the people who were like, you used the fusion effect this turn, and I was like, yep. And then I just summoned it again and used it again, and they read it and they were like, oh, that's once per turn, fair enough. Like, yep, I never said it wasn't. Just asked if I used it. I said I did use that effect. So that was really cool. I had 1 copy of the Cannon. This card is really good. I wouldn't play more than 1. Initially, I like had wondered if I should play like 2 of this and 2 Sonata, but I think you just need the 1 to make Baguska, which I did once, because I got Lancey up earlier, and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna give him 1 draw and just like summon Baguska, and yeah, force them to play through it, and they couldn't. So this card's really good. Its effect's not that great, but it has the 2000 booty, and it is its 4 extender that you can search and just summons itself. It is a hard once per turn though, so I just play 1 of it. I played 1 copy of Aria. This card is like pretty much the reason you would play this deck. This card's actually incredible. This is like the biggest contributing factor to why I decided to play this deck and why I think this is like the most well-positioned deck of the format. I think this card is just so good into the Raziel deck. Like, when you go first, if you know what you're doing, they genuinely just cannot out this card. They are only out as Exciton, and they just activate Exciton. You chain a 12 to bounce your field, and then the Exciton can like hit your scales, but it doesn't get rid of your monsters. And then Exciton is not going to be like during your main phase or anything like that. You bounce back the Exciton, and they can't do any damage that turn. So they like all your stuff just returns at the end phase, and like they can summon Detonator or anything like that, but like they can't Detonator this. They can't do anything about this. They you will just out resource them. And if they summon like Desiree or something, you can just go. You can just attack it because your things can be destroyed by battle, and it can't just like target with your grave effect. And if on attack declaration they activate, you can just chain and bounce. So this card is just insane. Every single time, all day, I summon this. I never summoned this one time going first or second and lost. Every single time this hit the field, I won. So this card's effect is just insane. Like the Voice of the Voice profile I posted a week ago, it just doesn't have an out. Like literally, you could deck your opponent out. There is no out to this. This card is just deceptively incredible. Like it's so good. Then the Shapina, this card is obviously also insane. This being able to recycle and not being a hard once per turn is also just broken. Sometimes I use this like 2 to 3 times in one single turn, and that is just crazy. It can recycle Orange Light, so yeah, obviously we play Orange Light. It should really be no shock. That's crazy. This card also is really, really good because this adds back Light Fairies, which means it adds back Artifact Lancia. So if you play Lancia and you see Lancia once, you can always get back to this. Like Baku can just summon it from the graveyard, and you can always like add it back, Pendulum summon it. So you'll like always have access to this. And if you've seen Lancia once, you will see Lancia forever because it can just recycle it endlessly, which is really crazy. I think it like helps the Malice deck a lot. So like this is like insane into Raziel, because one of the things I didn't mention about this card that it's like crazy into Raziel is going second. If you have like Ostinato or the first movement solo, you could just summon this, and then they can't Detonator, they can't Mirror Logic Aggregator, they can't Imperm, Valor, Mourner, any of those cards. Those cards are all just dead. They do nothing. Like this card just shuts off everything going second. So like if you open like Ostinato, they can pop the Baka, but then the Baka just summons this from the deck, and then the Baka summons from the graveyard, like the refrain, and then they can't target it, and then you just like slam them. So this card is just crazy. This card was absolutely nuts. People could not believe all day how good this card was, and I think that like even once people know that how good this card is, people are just not going to be able to deal with it if you can play appropriately and defend it. So this card was crazy, especially like going second into the Raziel deck. This card actually allows you to like beat their board consistently. And then this card recycles Lancia forever, so these helped a lot into the top 2 decks, which is part of why I think this is like the best deck right now. Then we played 3 copies of Ostinato. This card obviously is really good. There's Sprint Infusion on Cracked, not a hard once per turn. I don't really have like too much crazy to say about this. It should be pretty obvious we're playing 3 of this and why. It's insane. This is like one of the best cards to draw that I've like ever played. This card's so good. Obviously, like going second, getting you access to the Aria is just really, really, really helpful because it like lets you actually play past the Raziel board. Then 3 copies of First Movement Solo. This card is a 1-card combo as well, and this card is also really good because it summons Arya going second, and then the Raziel deck just can't do anything about it. So this card is really good all day. Every time I opened it, it was nice, and I would definitely never play anything less than 3 of it for obvious reasons. 1-card combo going first, going second, and summons Arya. So this card's crazy. And then I played 1 Concerto, because I did not play Desires. I don't think Desires is correct in this deck. I don't think you need it. I think the deck's consistent enough without it. And yeah, I didn't want to up like copies of cards that I didn't want to play. Like, I think like banishing like Aria or Couplet is like a really, or not Couplet, I'm sorry. Aria or Japina, like banishing either of those is like a big deal. And I think it just like hurts the resource gain too much to play Desires. I don't, and like it makes you want to play like more copies of this, but like you don't want to draw this card. Like you don't. It's not bad. It's fine if you draw it. You can still just like play anyways. But this is not a card that I'm like hoping to see in my hand. So I don't want to play more than one copy of it. And if we don't play Desires, there's absolutely no reason to play more than one copy of it. If they banish it, then that's fine. You can still just play anyways. But this card was obviously really good. Gives you a draw and fusion summons using the scales, which is crazy. Then I played the one copy of Pot of Prosperity. This card is really good. I've seen some people playing like one of this, one Desires, but then they were like upping on cards of Concerto, like copies of the Concerto, because they're playing one Desires, which felt really weird. I feel like you just played two Desires if you're doing that, but I get wanting to play Prosperity because I think Prosperity is like better in this deck. Obviously, it cuts off the draw from Concerto, but it doesn't matter. This card's insane. It lets you see Ostinato, lets you see things that play through hand traps, and a lot of times people are waiting to Fua, and then you can just like prosp into like an Ash or an Orange Light or something along those lines. So this card is really good. I drew it a few times, and every time I drew it, I won. So now getting into like the meat and potatoes of the deck. That was all the engine, which I guess is the real meat and potatoes, but a big part of the reason I wanted to play this deck is because you could just play a ton of hand traps, and even though you don't technically need a million hand traps right now, I think hand traps are always just the best way. They're just the best into the most amount of decks. Orange Light is like a huge contributing factor to wanting to play this deck. It's crazy going first. It stops hand traps. It's also just like Gamma, while you can control monsters that you can also recycle. I mean, there's really not even much else to say about this card. This card is just bonkers. Like when you hit Duo Drive, like they can never cross this out. It removes the monster. This card is just cracked. This card's so good. It was insane every time I drew it, and I would never play this deck without playing this card. This card is insane. Like I said, a huge contributing factor. Like want to play this deck is getting to play like the really good hand traps like Orange Light. So Orange Light was absolutely crazy. Super happy I played that. Then I played 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is obviously also just really good, super strong, and I would highly suggest playing Ash Blossom. I mean, you're playing a lot of hand traps, so Ash Blossom is very obviously going to be one of them. So Ash was really good. Ash Duo Drive, there's every deck has like good Ash targets. Every deck also has good Orange Light targets. Then I played 3 copies of Ogre. I think Ogre is really good, obviously into Duo Drive, but I think also into like Haggard, Lizardos, or Splash Mage against the Malice deck. I think it's really good against. And then I think if you play the Pure Fiendsmith deck, Ogring the Desiree so that it doesn't negate your stuff is actually pretty good. So, especially when you have like Aria, because then they can't like use the Grave effect of the Desiree. So this card is like really good in like all the top matchups, and it's not bad in U-Bell. The other 2 obviously hand traps are just insane in U-Bell as well, but this card played good. That Desiree thing came up Ogring the Desiree, so that was really strong, and I was happy I played Ogre for sure. Then I played 3 copies of Effect Veiler, not once per turn. A lot of these cards also I tried to play like the most like strongest, most generic hand traps because I thought that they were really nice to like support your board as well. I think Aria is really hard to deal with, especially if you have something like backing them like Veiler. So Veiler was really good. I drew Veiler a few times. I was happy every single time I drew it. Definitely make sure you're playing Veiler. Like I said, you're playing a million hand traps, so you just want to make sure you're playing all the good ones. Imperm, this card's like especially good because until the new twin XYZ comes out, this card also acts as like a breaker, and because you play so many hand traps in this deck, a lot of the times when you open Imperm, you can use the other hand trap and then hold this one for the detonator. So it's like you have like first movement solo, Ostinato that can play right through detonator, and then like also this, which is 9 cards, and then Prosperity that can dig into any of the 9. So you have like a quarter of your deck can beat detonator going second, and yeah, so if you draw 6 cards, you should see a way to play past detonator every time. And because we play 18 hand traps, we should have a way to stop Duo Drive every single time, even if they have cross out, and then you should still be able to stop the detonator every time. So that was part of the reason I wanted to play this deck, and I've been testing it a lot, and it performs exactly how I'm saying, and I it worked that way in the tournament too. The deck is just insane. So Imperm, obviously like one of the cards of the format right now. This card's crazy. And then another reason to play this deck is this card's crazy right now is Dominus Purge. This card is also like awesome into Duo Drive because they can't do anything about it. They can't cross out it, called by it, no talents, no thrust. It's just like, hey, you're not going to be resolving that. See you later. The deck's all light, so this it literally only just conflicts with Ash Blossom. But obviously, you would just anything you could purge, you would just Ash Blossoms first. So they don't conflict. It's this card's absolutely incredible. I love this card. Like I said, another one of the contributing factors. And yeah, we played 18 main deck Cane Trapped. So every time I went second, I was stopping my opponent. I was like never just getting comboed going second. Not a single time did I get comboed when I went second because the deck's built to not lose. Even when like the first match I played, my opponent set up Wave King, High Caesar, and Dead Netter, and I still just played right through it and cracked his board and won that game. So that was really strong. Then I will go into the extra deck. I played 3 Baka. Truthfully, I never summoned the 3rd copy, but I did think with like Unicorn being a part of the format, me playing so many hand traps, if I do happen to get ripped by Unicorn, I do think having one could be like be detrimental. And this is like the only one that you would actually like really want to use like more than like the only one that I could ever see coming up at 3. So Baka was really good. It's really nothing to say. I mean, it has an insane on the field effect. It can let you play through play with Baguska. It summons from deck and then it summons from grave. So obviously we're playing 3. It's like one of the best ones. Twal. This deck is nothing without this card. This card is really good. Non-targeting bounce. Every single turn is just crazy. Dodge just nib. All the lines that I do. All the combos just play through nib. So this card was really good. And it's just really sticky. It's just a really big pain. And not targeting or destroying is super strong. So this card was really good. I don't even think I ever summoned a second copy of it. Once one hit the field, like every time I summoned one copy, I won that game, and I never had to summon a second copy. But I definitely would continue to play 2 copies for sure. Shiberta, I played 2 Shiberta. I don't think you need more than 2. My QCRs didn't come in time. Rest in peace. But yeah, the 1-card combo with Ostinato, depending on what deck you're playing against, is going to summon both copies of it. And the Aria and then a Twal and play around Nib. So this card is really good. This card's super good into the Fiendsmith decks. So that was like one of the contributing factors to like me really liking and wanting to play this deck, as well as like I thought Aria's just insane into Ryziel, and then the being able to recycle the Lancia is also like really insane with this deck. So with the Shapina, so then like it was just like the 3rd best deck is gonna be the pure Ryziel deck, or I'm sorry, not the pure Ryziel, the pure Fiendsmith deck. And this card is insane into that deck. It just banishes 3. And then one thing that came up during the tournament that's also very important to note is that the effect that banishes from the graveyard is attack, like gives you attack boost, so you can activate this in damage step, which like I use to my advantage because if I go battle phase and like say I attack a Desiree with this, they can either use the Lacrima in the graveyard and then you just chain this and banish 3 things out of the graveyard and then attack over the Desiree and they can't target your stuff from the graveyard. Or they let you enter damage step, not thinking, and then you activate this in the damage step, banish all their stuff, they can't chain it because you're in the damage step, and then it all still attacks over the Desiree, which came up and my opponent did not recognize that in the time. But even if it was like, there was no good win, like there was nothing good he could do, because if he goes activate Lacrima, we go chain this, he can go like chain Desiree, and then we go chain a Twal and bounce, and then we still just banish his stuff from the graveyard and he just loses. So there's really no good play around. That's why I'm saying like Dex Titan doesn't out the Aria, and then if you know how to play around Desiree appropriately, they also can't beat, like the Desiree also isn't going to beat Aria, so they don't actually have like a way to out it if you can play smart. And that was how it played out every time. So 2 of this is perfect. Don't play more. This is also all that I played for the fusions. I had tested some of the other fusions, but I just don't think that they're good. Like I think like the one is like okay against YuGiOh that like destroys, because I think like that's like cool against the YuGiOh monsters. But truthfully, I feel like I would just summon a different card in the extra deck for that specific situation. So I didn't play the other fusions. I don't think they're very good. I think just like 3-2-2 is a perfect ratio. You can recycle them with the main deck guys, and you'll never run out of the fusion. So just play 3-2-2. That's my opinion. It worked pretty good. I've been testing this deck a good bit, and yeah, that's all I think you need. So played one copy of the Link 2. This card is actually just disgusting. Don't forget about the hidden effect of the damage step that they can't activate effects in the damage step if you're attacking with something that this points to. That didn't come up. It's just like it's irrelevant to remember, and this summoning 2 from deck is crazy. It's really nice to like if you get hand trapped once or twice, especially if you get like if you have orange light for a hand trap, like it came up like I orange lighted like a Hua, and then they like Valor my normal summon, and I'm like, you know what, I'll put them on, don't have a third hand trap, special summon the level 3, and then send the 2 of them into this full combo anyways. So this card was crazy. This card's actually broken. I've thought about playing a second one, but I've never actually needed a second one. It's just like it's such a good card that you would, you know, it comes to mind as like one of the things that should have a spot. One copy of Gravity Controller. Probably should have done that first because it's Link 1. You need to play this because you summon your guys in the extra monster zone, and if they like imperm Baka, you get to send Baka into this and summon back from the graveyard whatever you dumped oftentimes. So that is really good. And like even if you're doing like the 1-card combo, you have like the guys in the scales, and you could just like if they imperm, you could just activate, target the Baka, dump a thing, and then summon that back with the Baka. So Gravity Controller is a requirement. This card is something I didn't see like a lot of other people playing, but I think this card's like super good. I think it's like a huge requirement. I think this card's insane into breakers, and I think it's also like insane into rogue. And because your deck has so much recursion, like every turn the concerto is going to give you an additional draw, and then you could summon the Shapina and the Soprano, and both of those are going to give you an additional card. So like you have like a draw per turn, and then a draw off the concerto, and then 2 recycles every turn. So like you'll always have like fairies for this card, and it just negates a spell trap every turn. So and you could recycle this back to the extra deck and continue to use it. So negate a spell trap is really good into board breakers. Then I played one copy of Agent of the Moon. I never summoned this, but I like the idea of being able to pop a card. I think it's a good card. It probably belongs to be in the extra deck. Played one copy of Haggard Lizardos. I summoned this once, and I won because I mean, I think I probably just won without it, but I won because I had it, in theory, so. This card was good. I would play it. It lets you... There are certain game states that you can end up in that you want to remove your things for, obviously, like a first movement or an ostinato. I played Underworld Goddess. It was like either this or the other fusion monster, but just like ostinato on its own can just like summon Underworld Goddess and continue to play. So like just ostinato can summon like an Underworld Goddess, then also put up like at least a copy of like a Twal, and oftentimes like more. So the this card was like a requirement. Like Latent Dark Cast Angel is a pain, and yeah, that was like a big one. Is that I knew that like a lot of people were like spamming Latent Dark Cast Angel, so there is this card to be able to out it, and then just out any other thing that's like big and irritating that you can't out otherwise. So definitely make sure you play this. I think it's like a requirement. I know Herman Hansen played it a long while ago, so this card's been like staple for actually like a long while. Then I played our friend Baguska, summoned it once. It was insane when I summoned it. Not really much else to say about Baguska. I mean, it's obviously has a crazy interaction with Baka, so. Also, it's just nice that like a refrain and like a lot of the combos, if you do get hand trapped in certain ways, can just like summon Baguska, and yeah, because you have like the 4 extenders, this card's definitely a requirement. And the last card I played is Typhon. Typhon obviously like conflicts with Purge, but it doesn't really matter. I think if you're playing a deck that plays 18 hand traps, then and you know what I mean, you might get into hand trap wars. This card is really good, and I think against the pure Fiendsmith deck a lot of the times they will equip the Link 3 and the Link 2, and their Desiree will be too big, so you just don't summon any card, any hand trap or whatever, and then summon this and bounce it and attack for 29. So that is the extra deck. I would not change a single thing. I think everything was like there for an important place, and I think the extra deck was like perfect. I also thought that the main deck was absolutely perfect. I think like card for card, I would, if I could go back, I would play exactly the same thing, and I'm going to continue playing the same thing. Also, if you guys want to see me play this deck, I am doing a 40-hour stream this weekend, so it's going to be 5 a.m. Eastern on Saturday to 9 p.m. Sunday. No breaks, no sleep. I'm going to hit top 10 rated on DB with the Melodious deck of grinding it, and kind of go over like the 40 different combos with the deck of like all the different like things you can open, so that I can get myself to a mastery of the deck, and I can help you guys get to a mastery of the deck. So if you guys want to check that out, ProphecyWiz_ at Twitch TV. So then for the side deck, I played 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. This card, I don't even think I drew it, but it's nice because, like, in theory, this deck is not as good into breakers, but it's really only just like Droplet and Dark Ruler, and like nobody's playing Dark Ruler right now. Some people could be playing Droplets, like this is nice into that, but against the other breakers, this deck's actually really good into. Yeah, like I have played through like quite a few breakers with this deck. Like Book of Eclipse, like obviously you can just dodge out of it. You can imperm or purge a Book of Eclipse. Depending on like what deck it is, I can summon the Herald Link too. So that is also like really good and like evenly matched as well. You could bounce out, like you can bounce all your guys and then just like banish like irrelevant stuff. So this is like really good into like the breakers that are good into it, and it can save your board and let you like save your monster interruption, so you don't have to like bounce your board on a Book of Eclipse if you don't have like the right ways to deal with it. So Judgment, never drew it, but it's a good card. And I played 3 Thrust. I put this card exclusively in going first. I never sided this going second. This is not meant to be sided going second. I know I'm going to get those comments, but yeah, I came up once in like the middle of like a mid game that I thrusted for an Ostinato and chokeslammed my opponent with it. But this card was just here mostly for the 3 targets. I played Dimensional Barrier, Sanctum, and Different Dimension Ground. These cards were really good. So like the idea was that like when I went first, I would side in Judgment against every single deck every time. And then when I went first, I would also side in Thrust every time, and I would side in like D-Barrier against Ryzial, and then I would side in Sanctum with obviously Lancias against the Malice deck, and then I would side Different Dimension Ground into the Fiendsmith deck. So I wanted to make sure I had all the targets, and I hard opened the D-Barrier once. I thrusted once for Sanctum, and it was insane when I played the Malice deck. So that was yeah, I mean, I would definitely continue to play the Thrust. It was insane, and it gives you like a lot of cards to be able to decide when you go first. And then I would definitely just like continue to play the three targets. And then I played 3 copies of Artifact Lancia. This card's insane because Shapina can just recycle it every single turn. So like you have like 3 Thrust and 3 Lancia and a Sanctum. So you just have like 7 copies of Lancia in your deck, especially when you go first, which is just crazy. Anytime you see a Lancia, you're just like, you've pretty much won because you're just gonna Shapina it forever. And yeah, you're already playing Shapina, you know. So it's not like the Voiceless combo where you have to play like an additional card in. We were already just gonna play Shapina regardless of the Lancia. It just so happens to be that this is late fairy, so it's a big perk of this deck because this deck's already like insane into Ryzial. Like this deck beats Ryzial like 98% of the time, and then I'd say it beats Malice like pretty similar. Like it beats Malice every time. Because hand traps are a little bit better into Malice, and you just play so many, and then you side into like Lancia Turbo with recycling Lancia. So Lancia was really good. Used it once, and I won when I used it. So I would play Lancia. It was really, really cool, and I like the interaction obviously that this deck has with it. And then Droll Knockbird was the last card I played. Droll Knockbird was really good. When I drew it, Droll was so like Droll is like the thing that I found that has like the most impact into Ryzial because they're playing the Fadesmith cards and they're like maxing out Engraver and stuff, if they do start with like discard Engraver, search Tract, and then you draw like they're not using the Tract and they're not using any Bonfires, they're not searching off any Rise Yells, they're not using Duo Drive, they're just gonna summon a Detonator, and our deck just like our deck lives to just like deal with Detonator. So this like that's just incredible. Like it just trades super well resource wise into it, and it forces them to like summon like multiple guys oftentimes from the hand and not use the effects to like gain them more resource. So Drill has been insane. I sided in Drill going first. And one of the nice things is like when I go first, I side in 3 Judgment, 3 Thrust, and then either like Sanctum and Lancia or the D-Barrier and Drolls. So I side in like 10 like bomb cards against the best 2 decks every single time when I go first, because the deck playing 18 hand traps and having like a super strong engine going second, this deck like thrives going second. It's super like you definitely choose to go first and it wants to go first, but this deck is incredible already going second. So when I go first, it's nice to have like 10 cards to be able to put in against like both of the top 2 decks, because it's like you're likely to blow them out every time you go first, and then when you go second, like you have 18 hand traps and you just side either this against Malice or this against Ryziel, and like obviously like this against the Yubel deck, and then you have like 21 good hand traps into those decks, and yeah, that's like helpful because you usually can just like win every single time you go second, and then when you go first, you can side in 10 generically good cards every single time into those matchups. So Droll was just as good. I mean, like I tested Droll a lot, so it was like not surprising. It was like Droll was like I tested like a lot of voiceless, and I just like it was hard to come to like a good voiceless list that I thought could actually beat Ryziel and Malice consistently going second. It felt like a lot of the times they just had like too many answers. It just couldn't play enough non-engine to be consistently beating those decks every time. Still working on it. Don't worry. I know you guys love the voiceless content, so I'm gonna keep it coming. But for this tournament, this is like clearly just the best deck of the format in my opinion. It just plays the most hand traps, plays the best hand traps. Like it plays better hand traps than Ryziel. It's better into Ryziel and Malice than each one of them is into themselves or into the opposite one, which makes me just feel like it's formatted as the best deck. So I thought this deck was insane, and yeah, performed insane. It's been performing insane every day on DB. Like I said, check me out at ProphecyWiz_. I play this deck every day. This deck has been crazy, and yeah, I tested a lot of Droll, and like Droll was like the one thing I took away from like the voiceless testing was like how good this card was, and then this card obviously just continued to be really good in this deck. So that is the profile. I appreciate everybody's continued support, and if you guys like this, please be sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment below. If you guys were happy with me doing a deck profile of of a different deck and playing something else. I know every deck profile I've posted so far has just been voiceless, so I hope this is really well received. I put a lot of time and effort into this deck as well. I've liked this deck for a long time. I was kind of just waiting for it to be a little bit better, and I think like right now it's time to shine big time. So I appreciate everybody, and thank you guys so much.